Welcome to the Artist Spotlight for Run Radio. My name's Trina Wilcox, and today my guest, Andy Haut. Welcome.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
So I first got introduced to you from a friend we have in common who does writing and some stories for kids. And you put the music together for that, and it came out fantastic. What got you into that style of music and music in general?
Absolutely. Well, my parents are both musicians. They sang like like theater, musical theater in college. So that's kind of what has been around the house all of my life. And I've just always been drawn to just the message of positivity. And whenever, my parents, I was blessed to really bring me up in that environment of encouraging other people. And so I started leading worship in middle school. I thought I'd love to learn guitar, and I learned worship, and we were just a bunch of kids. And so yeah, that's kind of where it all started. And then ever since then, I just these opportunities that arise, especially with working with getting this song for plugged in with kids, I was like, what no greater opportunity than to just share my gifts in this way. So that's kind of how it all started, I guess.
That is amazing. We have another
Yeah.
friend in common who also Chalmer was featured on the
Ye-
Artist Spotlight. So I think it's so cool getting to see people plug into their passions and really get to use them. And like you said, kids always connect a fun song with a story and that positive message that they're getting. So have you been writing your own songs for a long time?
I have. In fact, so when I started learning guitar in general, that was a big dream of mine, was I want to be able to write my own music, but I never knew where to start. I didn't know how it worked. I was like, what's the secret formula? Do I have to,
Mm-hmm.
is it music first or the lyrics first? I don't know how that works. And um I just started kind of playing around, playing guitar, and learned enough music that I thought I started noticing some patterns in some of my own um thoughts of like, okay, I'll start writing some of these songs. And I started writing, and then about 4 or 5 years went by, and then I got into high school, and then I just hit the ground running with it. I said, I'm gonna just start really trying to do this. In fact, I started doing these little things where for a couple months I tried to write a song a day. And even if it was just like a little like jingle or like a little verse or a little chorus or a hook, just to as an exercise, as a creative exercise to try to get that going. And then I ended up recording quite a bit, and it was all kind of just fun with my friends and everything like that. But I got enough feedback, and I thought, well, that was the biggest reason I was doing it, was just the social aspect of, this is fun. I love sharing my music with other people. So that's kind of where it started. I've been doing that. I've been sharing music. Oops, I apologize. I'm getting a
No problem.
but I started sharing music with friends, and then it's like one of those things. It's like for some people maybe like journaling. It's my outlet. I love doing
Mm-hmm.
that. And so I've been writing. I'd say I'm about to be 34. I've been writing since I was like 15.
Wow.
And it's just part of my life. It's kind of part of my artistic process. So
So it didn't ever feel like work for you. It was more like an excitement, like you said, an outlet and creative journey.
yes, in fact, like there's not one type of music that I would consider myself a musician for. Like I love folk music, I love pop music, I love rock music, and then recently I've gotten into rap, and it's all just kind of more experiencing music and how it makes you feel. I think that's one thing that it's almost the opposite of work. It's felt like there's not been a pressure for me to do it, but there's some times where it's taken me 4 or 5 years to finally finish what I started, as far as some of these songs that I've written. So but then there's some that like the In Each Other's Shoes, the song that we wrote with the for the kids, that kind of just came to me naturally. It kind of found me in a way. I had this hook in my head, and I just went with it, and I was able to write that like in one sitting. Whereas I said some songs take like 4 years. So
Yeah. So when you did start wondering how to figure this out, when you said you wanted to start learning music, where did you turn to get some knowledge and information? Because information changes fast, and how we consume it definitely has changed over the past few years. So what was that like for you, getting the schooling, if you will, the self-taught method down?
Yeah, a lot of that was just going to peers that I had that were also learning instruments. We didn't necessarily, I took guitar lessons for a little while just to kind of learn the basics, and that seemed like a lot of work. There was a lot of, theory involved and things that I had to kind of memorize. And I thought, I don't really know. I'm not very good with this. It was almost like for me with math. I'm not great with math, but I gave it. I just kept giving it another chance, and I would just I my main thing I started doing was watching videos of other people playing. And one of my big inspirations is Jason Mraz.
Mhm.
He played these coffee house shows where he would just play him, and he had a percussionist, and I was just drawn into this style of music and the songs he was playing. And so I just watched his hands on the guitar, and I had to kind of figure out until I got it right. And I learned all of those songs. And so here I had someone else's entire set learned.
Word.
And then that's where I learned a lot of chords. I couldn't even at the time tell you the name of the chords I learned, but I knew what they sounded like, and I knew where they fit in. And um, I built on that as time went on. So that was always a hobby, is just watching other people, my peers, and then of course online when YouTube kind of started. So
So how has it evolved for you as far as being on stage or doing shows, recording? What's that been like?
yeah, when I first started, I literally had like the first CD that I have out on streaming platforms is actually one that I did through this little record. It was like a little mom and pop shop kind of record label where this couple of people just started this label where they were like posting it around New York City. And I was like, I don't know anything about any of this, but I said I'd love to help get you guys started. So I wrote some songs for that on like a Casio keyboard that had like a beat maker in it, and it started just really like I just felt my way into it. I thought, I don't know, I just started somewhere. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned is if you don't know how to do something, you have to just start. You have to just
Mhm.
take a step. So what that turned into was, technology started to advance, and then I started getting into recording on computers and learning from other people. And one thing led to another, and I just started like getting really involved in little, like, okay, I'm gonna try to make, I have it in my head how I want this guitar to sound or this vocal to sound. So over time, it's kind of evolved with just trial and error, but again, just taking those steps forward. I mean, every project that I've done, I've learned a little bit more from. And then of course I'll record it, and then I'll put it on a CD, and I'll sit in my car and listen to it. And then I'll just say, oh, I don't like how that, I become
Yeah.
more critiquing my own sound. But also I've learned not to necessarily compare it to any other music, because everyone out there, I mean, they spend so much, and there's so much equipment that helps with mastering and doing things. And I just thought, I have a sound I want to get out, and as close as I can get to making that sound, that's my goal. So even today, as I'm continuing to write and record and do that, I kind of just, I go off of, okay, if I want to try something new, I'll research. That's the great thing about YouTube too, is I can
Yeah.
jump in there, and there's a lot of help available today for free. So
Yeah. We've got a lot more access and control on getting our art out into the world. And I think that's great. I'm glad you're doing it. What does it look like moving forward? Where are you at right now in the process?
yes, okay. So I wrote recently like a hip hop album, and it was a lot of fun. I didn't mean to do it. It's kind of funny. I actually I would be on a treadmill is where it all started. I had like a dream one night, and I was like, I had a rap in the dream, and I was like kind of just like playing with that. And then I started like writing down the poetry, like this will be fun to share with my friends, and particularly my mom. My mom passed away in 2019, but she was my biggest advocate for whatever you do, do it with all of your heart and keep doing it. So, of course, mom's the first one that I send this stuff to, and she was like, I love it. And I'm like, really? You don't like this kind of music? You like that? And whether she was just being mom or I do believe she really liked it. But I thought, this is okay, so this is fun. And then I started doing that. um and it's interesting because my musical journey has always been pretty heavy with guitar, and then this album
Mhm.
was very, there's a couple of tracks where there's guitar, like electric guitar or lead guitar, but a lot of it just went into more word crafting and wordsmithing some of these phrases and rhyming and doing all of that in a clean way, which is kind of sometimes rare in the hip hop industry and that kind of thing. But I got into that. And so where that's going now is, anytime I finish with the project, my artistic journey is I will kind of step back and I kind of let that breathe. And
Mhm.
right now there's a lot of self-focus on where I want to go, with I'm focusing on, I work at a church, I'm the children's director there. So putting my focus fully into that. And then the next thing is I really want to write like a whole album of children's music. I want to work with, I've got several songs that I've written, acoustic songs that are just for kids, for families, but to take it a step further, I thought it'd be really cool to get like something else involved, like kind of make a big production out of it, like make a coloring book that goes with it that has like the words in it and maybe even some of the guitar chords where these kids or young adults that are like hearing the song, if they like it, they can learn them with me. And it's resources right there and they can interact with the music, because that's something that I've found that it's one thing to just listen and say, "Oh, that's interesting," but when you can really reach out and make a difference, I think the youth of this world is the biggest, should be priority for all of us to focus on how we can encourage them and inspire them. And I think this is something that I'm passionate about. So that's the next step, is kind of doing something
Yes.
with kids music. Yeah.
And always making sure it's accessible for them. When I hear stories of schools taking music out of the lineup, my heart breaks because I can't imagine not having choir hour, singing hour, even though I was never good at it, but I could just blend in with everybody. And it was just the connection with music and everything, I think is so valuable for kids. So I think it'd be great to make sure they're continuing to have access to that all the
Yeah,
time. Great.
absolutely.
So you did mention that you do have another full-time job. And I want you to speak to that for people that sometimes, we get swept up in thinking that sometimes our dreams have to be in the driver's seat of what we're doing or how we're making a living. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it's a step next to what we're doing. So, can you talk about that and how that's been for you?
Absolutely. With a lot of my dreams and goals, I remember growing up, I was like, I want to be I want to make my job playing music. I want to get paid to be a musician. And I had the opportunity for several months to lead at the church and lead our modern worship service. And it was a paid job. And I was like, I made it. And I got a really great opportunity to reflect on that. And I realized, our dreams, it's kind of like give you an example. My brother has this car that he's always working on, and he's always working on it. But if he ever finishes, it's like his lifelong project. He's always had this car, and if he ever finishes working on it, that won't be his project anymore. He's always wanting to do more stuff to it. And I think I kind of equate that to like with my life and in our lives with our dreams, is it is more about who we become in the process of what we're after, is what I'm learning. And that's really, I'm very fortunate to acknowledge that, because that opens up everything, whether it's working with kids or working in music or working even just volunteering somewhere. I mean, um, how you're able to carry yourself into someone else's life and into someone else's space, and um, just helping be another positive person for them. And we don't always, I say that it's not our job to just sit here and try to put on a smile and be positive, but to be genuine and to be honest. And I think it's the journey more of the destination, I think, as a lot of people say. But I truly believe that is, when I was younger, my goal was to just make music. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what opportunities would arise, but then I had this music to come up with In Each Other's Shoes and all the different projects I've worked on. And they've all just kind of been my way of feeling forward, of expressing myself and learning about who I am through those. It's kind of like your music, once you write it and create it, it's not it's its own thing. It's like a painting or something. It's its own thing. Other people can interpret it how they want, whether you intended them to in a certain way or not. And I hold on to that, and I focus on my dreams have kind of altered in that regard. Like, I've learned a lot and found a lot about myself on this journey, to where now I'm like, I'm open to using my gifts and talents, not for self gratification, but to help other people. And that wasn't the case at first. At first, I wanted to just be famous, or I wanted to be a musician, and that's not my goal as much as it is to share and encourage other people to follow that. I think that's really important.
So what's your single piece of advice to anyone maybe struggling to let their self start doing, to just take that step and start?
Yeah, it's simply that my advice, and I tell myself this often still, is start. Even if it's like a baby step, writing a poem, and honestly, sharing it with other people. That's my other advice is, you could hold on to something and create something, but if you don't share it with anyone else, you're the only one that has it, and that's fine. But once you start sharing things, I've found that like the feedback that you get, whether it's good feedback or, oh yeah, I like it, or, oh, sometimes you might not get, the feedback that you want, but that is good. I mean, I've had people before, I've been really excited to share something with someone, and then they might be like, oh yeah, that's really creative, that's good. And I was like, oh, I thought it was a lot, and so I have gotten discouraged sometimes. But then on the flip side, there's people sometimes where I'm like, oh yeah, here's this thing, and they're like, this is wonderful, I love this song, I listened to it so many times, and I'm like, whoa, this is super powerful. So just start, and don't be afraid to fail forward. That's what I've learned, is you're not going to get it perfect on the first time. In fact, that's, unless you start learning from your mistakes, it's not going to be any fun. That's what I have found.
You can
It's more,
always Sorry, you can always learn from that feedback though, in some
yeah,
capacity,
yeah,
as difficult as it might seem sometimes.
exactly. So yeah, start small if you need to, just get it out there, but share it. Start and share it with somebody, someone someone you trust, someone you love, and then someone maybe you don't know very well, or you've just met. It's a really fun conversation starter too. It's like, wow, I didn't realize you are this creative, or that kind of thing.
So Run Radio is all about, giving a platform to, self-publishers, independent musicians, self-starters. And a lot of times we talk to the entrepreneurs, and we're always talking about networking, how important that is. And I
Mhm.
hope that's never lost on the musicians and the writers, because you're still a self-starter, you're still doing business. And how has networking benefited your growth in music?
Yeah, the biggest thing, like I said, when I started, and I wanted to learn guitar. I have two older brothers that I always did everything they did. Anything they did was, I want to do that. And the guitar was the one thing that I kind of had aside from them, where it was my own thing. But I started playing, and I was so proud of that. And I took it to our youth group, and I said, hey, I'd love to do live music at the church here with you guys. Just playing with other, like I said, peers. Like I had a friend that played drums and one that played bass, and it was like, let's start a little band, for fun. This was a good outlet for us to do that. And um did the same thing in college. As soon as I got to college, I started leading in a campus ministry called Ichthus at Missouri State University, and just friends, we would jam for hours and hours, and it really fed that just passion. It gave me that foundation of just playing with other people of different talents. Some people far better musicians than I was, but it didn't matter because we all had something to contribute. I had a roommate that had a Tums container, and you'd use it as a shaker. We didn't have any solid Tums by the end of those sessions, but it was just goofy and fun. And that's the biggest thing, is um growing forward and moving forward and networking with other people. You never know what kind of opportunities will arise. I mean, you know that's a big influence for me, is just figuring out like, hey, what's something that we can put together, and we can make something great. I've learned that through trying to make my own music, there's only so much I can do on my own. And that's most of what
Yes.
I do. I do it all on my own, but the influences surely and certainly are of other people. And so yeah, it's just it's a blessing to be able to step outside of your space and be like, different is good. If someone else does something different, I can learn from that, and that is good. And it inspires me to be able to seek that out and go and jam with other people, see how they do things, because they can offer a lot more insight as to what just my brain can come up with sometimes.
You said a little bit earlier how your sound is pretty unique. How do you make sure that you stay in your own lane when you get tempted to kind of veer off and go, "Oh, maybe I should sound like that," or that's really popular right now. Maybe that's what I need to be doing with my stuff. Does that happen?
Yeah, it does. It's sometimes, I will find something that I like. In fact, that's a lot of where my inspiration kind of comes from, is I'll look at something that I like, and sometimes I'll get like a song stuck in my head, and what I'll do is I'll go into my music software, and I'll try to recreate what I like about that song. And it's almost like, I feel like there's so much that seems original, but then you look and it's like, oh, those are the same chords used in a different song, but it's like its complete own thing. And I'll do that. I'll make something that I'll find something that I like, but I'll take like elements of it that I am drawn to, and then I'm thinking maybe I can create something from that. And like I said, sometimes that can take years to do, but I find that even whenever I've tried to do covers of songs, like my own versions of like covers of songs that I like, they end up sounding completely different than the original, and I find that even more appealing. So it's kind of finding some of these elements, like this has a driving beat, or this has like a really cool, like in the, at the bridge it kind of drops out. Like there's different elements that I just love about music that I try not to like go right down the same path of the stuff that I'm listening to, but it surely inspires me. It's like, okay, I like this, and it that kind of energizes me.
Fantastic. Andy, where
Yeah.
can we go to find your music? Where can people listen
Oh man,
besides runradio.net?
of course, yeah, runradio.net, absolutely. Anywhere that you can get your music, Spotify, iTunes, there's all sorts of stuff out there. I have a the first CD that I made is out there that's kind of like a techno poppy one. It's super goofy. The next one I did was kind of an angsty breakup CD from high school that was all like a rock and almost like a punk rock kind of feeling. And then I have a folk acoustic one, and then I have a rock pop one and a rap one. And it's anywhere you get your music, you can enjoy it, whether no matter what kind of music you like. There's all sorts of
Awesome.
I have all sorts of stuff out there, and YouTube as well. So
All right. And keep sending Run Radio music. It's Andy Haut if you're looking it up.
yeah.
And thank you so much. Come back anytime.
Yes, thanks, Turner. We appreciate you.